Welcome to Never Rewrite. I'm Isaac Askew.
And I'm Jeffrey Sherman. And today we're going to talk about the perverse incentives of proposing a rewrite.
Oh, tell me more.
So, just a moment of introduction on what a perverse incentive is for anyone who doesn't know. A perverse incentive is when the system encourages you to cheat or take a shortcut. So, this is when a salesperson has, targets. They might book a sale that they shouldn't really have booked because it's going to get them to their bonus targets. A lot of times when corporations have to restate profits and earnings, it's because the executives had perverse incentives to hit certain numbers, and so they made sure to hit them regardless of what had happened, what the reality was.
Got it.
And so rewrites have a large, they don't have large, they have a bevy of perverse incentives that come along with proposing a rewrite. In theory, you would propose a rewrite because it's going to be better than fixing the current system. With whatever version of better you have of, it's going to be easier to maintain. It's going to be faster. It's going to be more scalable. It's going to have fewer bugs. It's going to make the developers happy. Like, those are all positive things that
good
you would
intentions.
get out of it.
Yeah.
Right. Those are all good intentions that are valuable to the company. But then there are a lot of not terrible. There are a lot of perverse incentives as well. The number one driver of perverse incentives is for new hires. New developers come in, they want to make their mark on the company, and what they have is they come in and they look at this organically grown, highly overgrown system that runs the company. It's doing all this work. They don't understand it because it's difficult to understand. It's hard to test. It's not going to be easy to change. It's going to be a slog. And immediately, if your goal is to make a name for yourself and improve yourself at this company, replacing it is going to be a lot easier. Replacing it seems like it's going to be a lot easier than fixing it up, and restoring this overgrown system to pristine condition. You're going to do it not because you truly think it's going to make a better positive outcome, but because it's going to be better for you and your career at the company.
Right.
It also insulates the new developer from any of the blame for the lousiness of the current system. After you've been there for when you walk in the door, no one's going to say, "Oh, yes, you're responsible for this." But after you've been there for 3 to 6 months, it's your system now, and now you are responsible for all the blemishes and all the things that go wrong. Even if it's in some piece of code that's been there for 10 years and you've never even had any reason to open that file, it's your system. And you now are getting the blame. And people feel that personally. It's like a body blow of, oh, I'm getting blamed for this thing and it's not even my code. But if you're doing a rewrite, it's never your code. It's the old system. For existing developers, there's slightly different perverse incentives. One, it gets you out of fixing bugs. As long as you're in the old system, you're going to be a continuative, iterative cycle of fix bugs, refactor the system so that you can see what's going on more easily, which is going to uncover bugs. You're going to fix the bugs. You're going to refactor a little more, fix the bugs, refactor, fix, and slowly extending. And for most people, it doesn't seem like that's going to be as much fun as, hey, I'm going to do this greenfield rewrite, and I'm going to spend months building this new framework, and I'm going to think about how it's going to do it. So doing a rewrite gets you away from fixing bugs and the maintenance work. Second thing it does is it's an easy way to bring in new ideas and new technologies into your stack. If you have a microservice architecture, it's easy to say, hey, let's do an experiment and bring in Go. I want to build this new service, or I want to rebuild an existing service in Go. And if it doesn't work, well, it's a small service. But if you have a monolith, you can't really do that. You have a monolith, and a new service is a massive undertaking because it doesn't play well with services. And so if you're saying, oh, I want to do an experiment with language or framework of choice, you have to create and refactor to create a space for that. Or you can simply say, hey, we're going to do a rewrite. It's going to be in Go because Go is, the awesome flavor of the month. And instantly you getting greenlit into Go. The third thing it does, yes. The third thing it does is it allows you to avoid doing subject matter expert work. For a lot of developers, the idea, it used to be called the universal manager fallacy. The idea that, oh, well, if you're a manager and you're managing people, it doesn't matter what the team of people you're leading are doing. You're the manager. You're not actually responsible for doing the hands-on work. You're managing. So, you can be a universal manager and come in and manage people. And that doesn't work at all. A lot of developers have a similar fallacy of, oh, well, I'm a developer. I write code. You tell me what the code does and I'll write it. And so I don't need to know anything about it. If I'm working in healthcare, or if I'm working in security, or if I'm working on marketing or advertising, like it's code. Just tell me what to write and I'll write it. And I'm a universal developer. And that is highly inaccurate. Developers need to become subject matter experts on what their systems are supposed to be doing, because there's a lot of subtle things that no one is going to know to tell you to program into the system. And so the good developers become experts in their field and understand the ways and whys and what fors of the business processes around what they're doing. And mediocre developers often avoid learning. And if you don't become a subject matter expert, detailed business work is hard and it's boring and it doesn't make a lot of sense, because you're going to go talk to somebody who is for every conditional.
So the perverse incentive in that regard is the developer wants to move towards something brand new because it's easier for them, rather than put in the effort and all the work that it takes to understand the nuances of the current system from both the actual implementation and from like the business context.
Right, because when you're building a new system, the first thing you're working on is the framework. It's the computer, the programming. It's the pure programming aspects of the job. That's what you do first. And so if you're avoiding the business work, a rewrite lets you work in the pure computer science, pure programming realm.
I see. All right, what else we have?
Perverse incentives for managers. First thing that comes up is a rewrite will often double your team and double your budget. You've got the legacy team and the replacement team. Just by saying yes to a rewrite, a manager can often double their budget, double their headcount, and
it's expensive.
It's massively expensive. It's a terrible idea for a company. But if you're a manager and you're looking around and you're measuring your stature by how many people you have reporting to you and how much budget you control, which sadly a lot of managers do, approving a rewrite is instantly, it can double you. It can make you a lot more important, a lot bigger, because now, boom, rewrite, double. Greenlighting a rewrite allows managers to avoid fixing a problem. If your current system is terrible and you propose a rewrite, that just bought you 6 to 18 months where you say, yes, the current system is terrible. We're working on a replacement. Don't expect me to fix the terribleness of the current system. It will all be fixed in the rewrite, which no one can judge until I deliver it. And I'm not going to deliver it for 6 to 18 months.
So yeah, it gives you a scapegoat.
It gives you this massive scapegoat for a long time. If your developers are unhappy at working in the current system, saying yes to a new system, right? It's not your money. This is kind of a middle manager problem of, you can say yes. Now you're a good guy. You're not the meanie who's making them work and fix all the bugs that they created.
The naysayer.
You're now saying yes. Yes, it's terrible. Somehow the system became so terrible that you can't maintain it. Yes, go write a new system. It gives you a wonderful new project to put on your resume.
Mm-hmm.
I led this group that maintained the system is boring. I led the group that maintained the system, and I led a group that replaced the system. That's a very good thing on your resume, especially if you get out the door before it fails.
I imagine too, when other companies are looking around, like if they're thinking about the rewrite process and thinking, oh, we have to rewrite this whole thing. Oh, look at this resume. This person's rewritten the whole thing from scratch before. And it kind of like feeds into the idea that that's a good thing, that people do this. We should be doing this.
Yes, and it gives you the perverse incentive. If you're a manager, right, and you're managing this project and you're fairly wise, you're going to see that at a year, things are starting to go badly. And as 18 months start to roll around, which is around when rewrites get canceled, if you have been wise, one of the things that is in the pattern is the manager will leave the team or get fired
Oh,
before
okay.
the project gets canceled. Near the end, one of the things that happens is the manager gets replaced. If you are a wise manager, or if you are a savvy manager, I should say, and you aligned yourself with the perverse incentives, you can take credit for this rewrite project, put it on your resume, declare that it's almost done, that it's going to succeed, go get a new job to help somebody else come in and do this rewrite, like just like you were saying, and you get out
Uh-huh.
of the you don't let the door hit your ass on the way out, and you manage to roll this failure into your next success. You then get hired at the next company to do this exact same thing, and because you managed to get out before the whole thing came crashing down.
And you can
So
talk about it too, like all the good things that happened, is not really seeing the side effects before you, like that would have continued had you stayed.
right, and if somebody ever calls you and like, oh well, after you left, this whole thing collapsed, like, well,
Right.
it's because I wasn't there anymore, and they couldn't bring it.
Yeah. I was
It
just so good at my
collapsed.
job. I was
I
keeping it
was so
together.
good. I was the one keeping it on track, right? It feeds the same perverse narrative of, oh man, I was killing it.
Right.
Uh, but for the company, this creates a perverse incentive of, if you approve a rewrite, you are also highly likely to lose the manager. So if a manager approves a rewrite, basically start the clock ticking. You've got 18 months or less with that manager. There's a similar thing with developers, but it's not as consistent. A lot of developers will leave. I guess that's a missed perverse incentive for the developers is, hey, you're going to do this rewrite, you bring in a new technology, you spend a year working this new technology. Now the company has just paid for you to learn this new skill, which makes you hireable elsewhere, and then they leave.
Ah,
Especially if the project is failing and it's going to get canceled and that technology isn't going to be used anymore. Right. So you've pushed for rewrite in Go, you spent a year working in Go, the project is going nowhere, the company's going to cancel it, and the company won't be using Go anymore. That developer is going to go. It's such a good language for puns. I have never written
the
anything,
same
but
pun over
the
and over
same.
again.
There's a go-to pun in this. It's just,
Uh,
but yeah. So a rewrite with a language or skill change makes it highly likely that if the rewrite fails, the developers will leave. It motivates the developers in the short term, but it also basically puts a clock on them that they're probably going to leave. And the company isn't going to get any value from the things that they've learned. And they're not going to get the value, like they're not going to get the long-term value from the developer for paying for the skills that they're teaching, because the developer's going to leave. And they're not going to get the short-term value because the code that they're writing, if the rewrite doesn't work, never makes it into production. The code has no value.
mhm.
All of these things feed the perverse incentive of, it for the company is basically lighting money on fire.
For sure. Just the idea earlier you mentioned for like doubling the team size for like a legacy team, maintaining everything while you have the replacement team building something new. That sounds like it's just burning money. Actually, it sounds like rewriting isn't even really feasible as a concept unless your company is already pretty sizable or making a fair amount of profit.
Yeah, that's an interesting topic for another show. Is you can't have a rewrite until you have a big enough pool and enough money to justify having extra developers to come and work it. For everyone, there's the perverse incentive, which is just human nature of, you can get more credit for building something new than you can for fixing something that already exists.
Yeah, that's a universal, I think.
That's a
Um,
universal human fallacy. But always.
yeah, maintenance for some reason is just it doesn't matter if it's maintenance of your own body going to the
Mm-hmm.
gym, maintenance of an old vehicle. It doesn't really matter what. It's just it's effort and it's annoying to have to do upkeep. And the idea that you can just pay for a brand new thing is just tantalizing. It feels like it solves your problems.
Right. And maintenance wrongly just doesn't get the same respect as new work. Traditionally you're going to end up doing a lot more maintenance over time than new work, and so it's valued less. Theoretically, you can do it with less skilled people, although that's not really always true.
Hmm.
Not in our field, certainly. And those are kind of the perverse incentives that drive a rewrite. And none of those things, new technologies, making, avoiding the deep understanding of the code, doubling a manager's budget, bringing on more people, getting credit. None of those help the customer. The only one that helps the company somewhat is if some of those skills, transfer and become useful. Theoretically, in the short term, it makes the developers happy,
Mm.
which would be useful. But if the developers end up leaving when the project fails and gets canceled, that wasn't worth anything anyway. Like, you might as well just, if you have a choice between paying a developer for 18 months and keeping them happy doing work that is of no value to the company, or losing a developer today, you're better off financially losing the developer today because
Mm.
you didn't get any value out of the 18 months they were happy.
And you had to pay for that entire time too.
Right. You paid them and you didn't get any value. You probably created some dissidence among the other teams because, why does this team get to play with Go and we don't?
Haven't really considered that side effect.
Yeah, definitely. When you do a rewrite, everyone who's not part of the rewrite feels very jealous,
I
especially
wouldn't
if new
say
technology.
everybody, because for
Many, not
many
everyone.
people, yeah.
Many people become jealous and wish that they were on the rewrite team, which could spawn more rewrites.
Yeah. There's definitely been times where I've wanted to be on that rewrite team earlier in my career, and I'm like, oh, that seems like an interesting project because I know how much of a pain point the old one is. I'm like, oh, that would be really cool to see like it perform as well as it could because this is like a moneymaker for the company, that kind of thing. But I am definitely one of the people that's tantalized by maintenance. I like to keep the lights on work.
Me too. I love the puzzle of, oh, well, this thing is terrible and it can't be fixed. I challenge accepted. Let's
Right.
the more terrible and impossible to fix you say it is, the more I want to prove you wrong and fix it.
Same. For sure.
Well, I'm out of perverse incentives.
That's it.
That's it.
That's the show.
That's the show. It's to summarize, everyone pretty much from, it's especially bad for new developers, but existing developers, managers, lots and lots of people are incentivized, have incentives to do a rewrite that are not, provide value to the customer or provide value to the business. If I guess as a executive or director or VP, those are things that you need to be aware of when somebody's coming to you and saying, oh, we need to do a rewrite. You need to be aware of these perverse incentives so that you can say, well, how, you can't say, well, prove to me that you're not doing this to double your budget.
Can't
But
outright accuse them, yeah. But you can
yes,
be aware of, these are the temptations that are kind of surrounding this decision, and kind of like raise an eyebrow to it when someone approaches you.
yes, exactly. Well, thanks for listening. I'm Jeffrey Sherman.
And I'm Isaac Askew, and this is Never Rewrite.